And just because he retweeted something I said that I wasn't even aware that he retweeted, now I'm getting blacklisted. Like, that's how petty the Republican press is. And they use it as a bully tactic. Like, if we blacklist you, maybe then you'll get in line. But I'm not a coward. I'm not a puppet. I don't care about money to an extent where I'm going to sell out. So I'm like, that's messed up. It only drove me further to like figure out what was going on.
And who, might you ask, was this individual who retweeted him in the right wing space, where now you have to disavow him or find a way to unretweet? I mean, it's no other than Nick Fuentes, right? It's the banned man of the conservative wing. For those who aren't aware, maybe you're in An0maly politics, you don't see all of this, but gatekeeping in Con Inc. has been going on for quite some time. Nick Fuentes is just kind of like the most namesake household name you can think of. It happens to other individuals too. You have people like, Jeff Younger, Keith Woods. There's a litany of people I could go through and just run down this list. But to be blacklisted because you were retweeted by just shows the level of desperation that Con Inc. in this kind of mainstream Republican amalgamation is just so desperate to prevent the Overton window from actually going even further to the right than I estimate it's going to. Now, I happen to agree with Nick Fuentes, not 100% obviously, but I agree with Nick Fuentes on a vast range of things. Maybe not the Catholic stuff so as much, but to sit here and have a party of the First Amendment, right? Free speech absolutism, but their elites and their kind of press wing are making sure that you're going to get blacklisted and not be able to go on podcast or grow your name just because a guy you don't like retweeted you. I mean, it's an insane kind of idea, but there's a lot more to this story here. So I'll go ahead and let An0maly kind of explain his side. So take a listen. Let me know what you think.
And then when the anti-Semitism hate speech laws started being passed, I was like, yeah, I don't agree with these for the same reason I don't agree with any hate speech rules. And I had friends at, I'll just say it, I don't even care. I had friends that worked at Blaze TV at the time that were texting me saying, everybody here is calling you far right. They're basically trying to blacklist you and say that you're too far right. And I was like, what are you talking about? I'm nicer than Charlie Kirk. I'm like, at the time, I was probably more liberal than Charlie Kirk. Like, I'm more conservative now, but I really wasn't in 2018, 2019. And they're like, I was like, what? They're like, oh, because Nick Fuentes retweeted you. And I was like, I'm getting punished for getting retweeted? Like, dude, I got millions of shares. Like, I was like one of the biggest pages on Facebook. Like, I got in trouble by the media because I said something about Irish people being indentured servants or slaves and how like now they're getting blamed for slavery in America because they're white. I got called all sorts of names by the liberal press. Like, I was getting in trouble by the left and now for guilt by association, and now I'm getting in trouble by the right. I was like, what the hell? Like, I've never even talked to that guy, and he can't even retweet me. Like, it's like a pressure tactic. They tried to use that kid who apparently Ben Shapiro did the same thing too in 2016, like, blacklisted him to some extent or to a huge extent. And just because he retweeted something I said that I wasn't even aware that he retweeted, now I'm getting blacklisted. Like, that's how petty the Republican press is. And they use it as a bully tactic. Like, if we blacklist you, maybe then you'll get in line. But I'm not a coward. I'm not a puppet. I don't care about money to an extent where I'm going to sell out. So I'm like, that's messed up. It only drove me further to like figure out what was going on. And then I saw people on college campuses questioning Charlie Kirk, Dan Crenshaw, Ben Shapiro, asking valid questions. And they just kept saying, you're anti-Semitic, as Trump was passing anti-Semitism laws. So I'm like, I don't care what other people think. Like other news hosts, whether they say stuff, like, I'm not responsible. Like, what if Kyrie Irving retweets me? Am I responsible for everything he said? If Trump retweets me or a Democrat retweets me, like, this guilt by association game is ridiculous. But also I'm like, okay, but outside of what you think of him or whatever, they're passing anti-Semitism hate speech laws. And from that moment on, I got blacklisted. So I'm not complaining about it because I don't really care. I don't need friends that are fake, and I don't need to be invited to donor events and stuff like everyone else. But I'm just letting you know what's going on. It's like, that's how I got to this point. And I'm still a nice guy. I still feel the same way, but it's just like I get misconstrued all the time because I won't bend the knee on that topic. The entire GOP does. And it's been like a smear attempt to silence and shut down any people who notice. Because they're losing tremendously, they now have this woke write-up. James Lindsay, Konstantin Kisin, Jordan Peterson to some extent. They're all like, Candace is woke. How is she woke? How is it woke to be... Candace is a lot of things. She's not woke. You know what I'm saying? You could say she's mean. You could say shouldn't say that. Like, I don't I don't know what you could say about Candace. Like, she's definitely funny. She's witty. I would classify Candace as witty, funny, fast thinking, seasoned now. Like, I watched her show for the first time in a while recently, and she was just like in a flow state. Like, I could tell she's just like in the zone right now. You could say she's mean. I wouldn't say she is, but she definitely can be a little like, gossipy, or, she's a girl, so she'll get into like celebrity gossip, like whatever, whether you like Candace or not. There's a lot of things you could say about her. Woke? How is she woke? How is it woke to call out the IHRA anti-Semitism laws and have edgy conversations about like the U.S. liberty? How is that woke? It's woke to be like, that's anti-Semitic. That's woke. Just like on the left, it's like, you're racist. Like, hey, there's a lot of crime in that city. That's racist. They're importing millions of people to like every state from random countries in order to win elections. That's racist. I want to close the border. That's racist. That's woke. So it's the same thing. Candace says something and they say, that's anti-Semitic. That's hateful. You're just being hateful. It's like, can you say anything other than that's hateful? Like, explain why it's hateful. They're like, well, it's woke. You're woke. You're woke. So they're trying to project wokeness onto the other people. It's like, Tucker Carlson's woke because he has on guests who question history.
How dare somebody question history? How dare somebody, especially looking in the face of COVID in 2020, how dare somebody question what they might have been told? Especially being led by people like Tucker Carlson and the Daryl Cooper podcast, hit on notes that I didn't think were even possible. But at the end of the day, the reality is what we're seeing is a kind of dynamic shift in the influences of the different kind of pundits and the different kind of factions. We're kind of in the middle right now of Con Inc., the gatekeepers, the more mainstream Republicans are losing ground to not only just the younger generations, but losing ground to people like Elijah Schaffer running slightly offensive, losing ground to Keith Woods, losing ground to people like Nick Fuentes, losing ground to people like Myron Gaines, losing ground to people, all of these different kind of, dissident right individuals. Now you can throw in some kind of periphery characters in there, maybe like Sneeko or Andrew Tate too, but it's clear that there is a changing of the guard, that young men in particular are looking to other sources because the Republicans, the gatekeepers in Con Inc. are simply just not the individuals that these kids are looking up to anymore, especially when it comes to being against this kind of multiculturalism giant. But at large, the topic with An0maly here, what An0maly's talking about is largely anti-Semitism stuff. And now we do see exactly what happened with the left wing and calling everybody racist. The right wing is now doing the same thing by any kind of pushback on anything to do with Israel or just Jewish stuff in and of itself is anti-Semitic and hateful that way. And it is largely projection. But again, I'm glad An0maly just comes out and says these things. I'm glad he's not feel the need to sell out or shut up or toe the line, if you will. So props to An0maly for that. He's been pretty base from what I have been able to see of him. So give that brother a follow. And I will say too, if you enjoyed this content, definitely give it a like, give it a thumbs up. That helps me quite a bit. Subscribe too. Share the show if you enjoy it as well. But ultimately, make sure you also follow me and my partner in crime, Worrell. He runs America First TV. We do a podcast together called the Jar Openers Podcast. You find a lot more of us freely in there. We do a live stream together. But with that being said, thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Take care.